Well, a good Friday. Thank you for tuning in to the Gardener's Corner program, our Friday feature here on WKRX and TV Channel 10, located on Charter Communications, Channel 191. My name is Rob Hall. Glad to have you along with us this morning. We're brought to you today on the Gardener's Corner program by Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese, Spread and Dip, T.G. Brooks Company, and South Boston Memorials. Please make welcome all the way from the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, a man that has been known to fly by the seat of his pants, Mr. Carl, the Johnny Appleseed of asparagus, Cantaloupe.
Thank you, Rob.
And a good morning to you, my friend.
Good morning to you.
Hey, who would have thought? We're kind of nib out like the Gold Dust twins today.
That's right. There we are. What do you know?
Anyway, would like to pass this information along to our viewers and listeners. This is a pre-recorded edition of the Gardener's Corner program. Carl had a bigger name on the other line for today, so we had to come in a little bit ahead of time to pre-record this program. But we've got a lot of useful information to pass along to you, and I just want to make mention that if you have a question for Carl or any of the other friendly Cooperative Extension Service agents, you can call the Person County office at 336-599-1195 or the Granville County office at 336, let me try that again, 919-603-1350. The number again for the Granville County office, 919-603-1350. So
right.
I had 336 on my mind for some reason. But anyway, on the program today, we're going to be talking about a lot of things that's maybe going on and maybe you have noticed in your vegetable garden. And we'll also tell you that, it's time for you to go ahead and start doing soil samples for your lawn, because here it is, not quite at the end of July. We've got about one more week left, but you know what? Next month will be August.
That's right.
And then September. And September is the month when you start fertilizing cool season grasses. So
that's right, and that's good point, Rob. We are getting close, and actually, I was out looking at a lawn the other day, and person had a fescue lawn, and was kind of thin. And I'm sure that it had brown patch fungus disease, and this person contracted with a lawn service that just they first of all they shouldn't have fertilized in the spring, which predisposed the the grass to brown patch fungus, and I'm sure that her soil pH is probably way too low. So the combination of soil pH, low soil pH, and over-fertility in the spring contributes to brown patch. So this individual is going to have to, we sent in soil samples, so the person is going to have to go ahead and add the necessary lime and fertilizer. But my recommendation was to start from scratch, because the turf is thin. You really have to go ahead and it's just like building a house. You have to start out with a good foundation.
Right.
And so my recommendation was to spray Roundup middle of August, wait 2 weeks, use the soil test results back from the soil sample, add the necessary lime and fertilizer on top of the dead vegetation and till everything in. And I think that's what's going to have to be done.
Well, I was going to ask you about when was the time to do all that. And really and truly, in all honesty, Carl, we need to do just that with our yard. We've got a lot of weeds and things growing in our grass. I don't know if we will do the a complete renovation or not, but we really should. And we'll talk coming up in just a few minutes about, the way that you can determine whether you need a complete lawn renovation or not.
Yeah.
But again, we are brought to you today by Owl Pride Foods, the makers of Owl Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip, T.G. Brooks Company, and South Boston Memorials. Carl, as the gardens are coming in good fashion, actually had some jalapeno peppers that my sister and her husband had grown, and they gave us some of them, and we actually took and split the peppers long way and got the seeds and the membrane out of the pepper. Well, then we took some cream cheese, and we also took some Owl Pride Foods Premium Pimento Cheese and put in these jalapeno peppers. And you can do them on the grill or you can do them in the oven. But you put them on the grill or in the oven, some people will wrap bacon around them. And you bake them or cook them on the grill until they are done. Now, you talk about a tasty treat. You got something right there. You sure do. So, anyway, glad to see the gardens coming in. And one thing that I would say, Carl, we've been having, little showers here and there, and I'm having a lot of people talking about, it looks like, that they've got, tomatoes and other plants dying, and they wonder what the problem is. And I'm not an expert as you are, but I'm thinking soil moisture is the biggest problem.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Soil moisture fluctuation going from a wet to a dry. If you don't practice even watering, blossom end rot is going to, really be a problem. And since we had the rain, this is a slide of Septoria leaf spot. This is what's actually defoliating tomato plants right now, especially after a rain. You have Septoria affect the plants, and then it can really cause a rapid decline of the vine. So if you're not preventing fungus diseases by applying either Daconil or Manab or both, applying once every 10 days or so, this is what you're going to see. I didn't have time to put up a current slide of what I saw yesterday, but maybe I'll have some time later to show that. But again, here is Septoria, and you can see how it works. Other things that have been problems, people have been having problems with tomatoes, if they plant in the same spot year in and year out, or if they plant varieties that are not resistant to verticillium wilt, which is a soil fungus, they get their plants are affected with that. Here's a slide of verticillium, and you can see kind of like the V-shaped marking on the leaf. And then sometimes the half of the plant can turn yellow and the other half not. And what causes that is the alteration of the foods and nutrients that move up through the vascular system of the plant. So if you cut a piece of the stem of a tomato plant that has verticillium, you can see the browning just underneath the outer part of the stem, as you see here, and this is what causes the plant to wilt and die. Fusarium wilt is another soil fungus. If you slice through a stem, you also have darkening, but it appears more in the center of the stem, as you see in this slide. And then this is a shot of a plant that has that is starting to wilt down. So the best way to control verticillium or fusarium wilt fungus diseases is to buy varieties that are resistant to it, varieties that have the letters V and F next to the variety name. That's your best way to get around that. And spray fungicides to control early blight and Septoria leaf spot. And again, this is one that we see all the time this time of the year. Whoops, wrong button here. Now, leaf rolling at the base of the plant. This is caused by uneven soil moisture. Just practice good even watering, and this will correct itself. Here's another shot of that as well. Nothing that's going to kill the plant, but it's going to put stress on them. Make sure that you pick the fruits in a timely manner. Don't let them get red ripe. Once they get red ripe on the vine, then they're subject to other problems. This is anthracnose, which has these little crater-like markings on the fruit with the spores inside. Some people have had problems with tomato hornworm or tobacco hornworm, and they can really chew up a plant in rapid order. Here's one that has the Braconid wasp, eggs that are laid on the wasp, and as the Braconid wasp, which is actually a beneficial insect, as they develop, they just suck all the fluids out of the tobacco or tomato hornworm, and they cause them to die. But usually when you see this, you can have a lot of your plant already gone by this time. So hand picking of these is one method, or spraying with insecticides is another, something like Sevin or Carbaryl. With all the hot weather that we've had rapid buildups of spider mites. And spider mites are very, very tiny. You generally can't see them unless you use a hand lens or a magnifying glass. But during hot weather, they can actually suck the sap out of the leaves, and they can cause the plants to really die in a hurry. So keep an eye out for spider mites, and you can use either insecticidal. Insecticidal soap is probably the best way to control them, but you got to spray that once a week. It's non-toxic, and it's good on the adults, but you really have to practice frequent spraying.
Nancy, Insidal soap, is it sort of like the Safer soap?
Yes, Safer soap is a brand name. That's right. Mm-hmm.
Carl, back to talking about how the tomato leaves roll up when the soil moisture is really low. Did I understand you correctly when I had asked you about this a few weeks ago, that you said later in the day and early in the morning the leaves will kind of unroll themselves somewhat?
That's correct, yeah.
But during the day is when they kind of tend to roll up tighter.
That's correct.
So if you see the leaves on your tomatoes rolled up during the daytime, check them late in the afternoon or early the following morning. And if you see this happening, it's automatically should tell you the plants need more water.
Right, and vegetables are greater than 90% water, so you have to give them water in order to get water. Absolutely.
And now, Carl, we had kind of talked about this a little while ago, and we'll go ahead and give a little bit more information on soil samples. They are free to residents of North Carolina through the Department of Agriculture. And basically, the soil samples used to be free year-round, but a few years back they made some changes, and the soil samples are free from May 1st up until, not May 1st, April 1st.
Yeah.
Up until Thanksgiving. And for those of you folks that are maybe wanting to do some lawn work, as we had mentioned earlier, it would be a great opportunity for you to go ahead and do your soil sampling. And that way you will know the recommended amounts of fertilizer and lime that you may need or may not need on your lawn.
That's right.
And what I was going to ask you, Carl, If you would you kind of go over about the way to do a soil sample?
Okay, sure. Very simple. Just take a small garden trowel and go down about 6 inches deep. Remove any grass, roots, stems, rocks, weeds. You want to take just soil only, and you want to go down and you want to take a slice of soil. So the best way to do that is to dig a small hole with a garden trowel, remove the remove the soil and the grass, and then go back on the edge of that hole that you just made and take a slice of soil down about 6 inches or so, and then go around throughout the entire lawn, take several samples like that, then mix all the samples together in a clean pail, and then take a final sample of that mixed soil out of the pail and bring in enough soil to fill up a small Ziploc bag, bring that into the extension office, and then we can transfer them into the soil boxes and then send them down to NCDA. I think right now is still the turnaround time is about 7 to 10 business days. So
It's something else that if you are wanting to do soil samples for maybe a garden spot or maybe an agricultural field or something like that, if you have multiple soil samples, you need to come up with some kind of code in your mind to mark these samples.
That's right.
When you turn them into the Cooperative Extension Service, so they will, turn them in. When you get the results, you'll have to kind of look at your, codes so you can kind of know what is what. And in a lot of cases, you will find if you're doing, garden areas, if you've got multiple garden areas, and if you've been pretty much doing the same thing in those garden areas the last few years, pretty much it's going to come back the same way. Mm-hmm. But although that's not 100% guarantee, you need to keep up with some way of knowing where that sample was taken from, so that way you will know the right amount of fertilizer and lime to put out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Carl, I had said that maybe you could go over the best way to decide whether you are in need of a complete lawn renovation,
right,
or maybe you just need to do something about the weeds that are growing in your yard without doing a complete lawn renovation project.
Right. The best way to know if you need to do a complete renovation or just overseeding is if your lawn consists of 50% or more weeds versus turf, it's a good idea to do a complete renovation. And, like in the area I mentioned before, this individual had very thin turf, probably due to low soil pH, and this person had brown patch. And also, another problem that this individual has, when you walk on the lawn, it was as hard as concrete. So, I mean, person had very compacted soil. So the only way you're going to eliminate that problem is during the renovation, if you can actually till up that area after the dead vegetation has been killed by Roundup. And the deeper you can go, the better it is with a tiller, because soil preparation is 50%, the success of your lawn. So you really want to go ahead and loosen up that soil as much as you can, and then sow your seeds. So tilling is definitely an essential part of that lawn renovation process.
So some useful information, but again, we suggest if you are wanting to do some lawn renovation work, or maybe put fertilizer on your lawn, if you have cool season grasses, the time to do that is mid-September. That's about a little over a month and a half away from now.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be a great opportunity for you to go ahead and get your soil samples done, and that way you'll have the results back, and you will be ready when time gets here to put out your fertilizer and lime. And I think it's a lot of people, Carl, that is kind of skeptical about maybe doing soil samplings. I think they would just rather take a shot in the dark or whatever.
That's right.
But I have told several people, kind of do a little experiment yourself. You know, maybe go out to a certain area and do a soil sample.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe have another area that you don't do a soil sample. Well, when you get ready to start putting out your fertilizer, you go ahead and you fertilize the area that you did not do the soil sample from to whatever you think it may need.
That's right.
And then the area that you received the soil samples results from, do the recommended analysis of fertilizer, lime, and things like that. And you kind of do those two comparisons to yourself. It won't take very long to make a believer out of you.
That's right. Absolutely true.
So you could do those things, and it would certainly help you out. Carl, here we are coming up in just a few short weeks. It's going to be your asparagus twilight meeting, correct?
That's right. Thursday, August the 6th at 6 p.m. at 980 Flem Clayton Road. Just take Route 57 north out of Roxborough until you get to Flem Clayton Road, which is about 2 miles or so, 2.5 miles. Turn right at Flem Clayton Road, and it's a dead-end street, and the asparagus plots are on the right. We'll start at 6 o'clock, and we'll talk about all different aspects of asparagus. I think the one thing that I'm the most excited about this year, just going over my results, my yield results from last year, shows that it definitely pays off to spray fungicides once a week from early July until late September. So you protect that asparagus fern, and it remains green right up until late September, and it stops the brown patch, Cercospora needle blight fungus in its tracks. And so what I saw last year as a result of the more intensive spray program, I've seen yield increases of almost all the varieties from 9 to 46%. And this is the first year I've actually seen yield increases after following 2 years of yield decreases.
Wow.
So that's dramatic, I think, and it really pays big dividends. And that's the neat thing about doing field research. You can actually, see what you're doing, and you can actually report, results to the people.
Well, Carl, certainly with increasing the yields and things, that means more money in your pocket.
Absolutely.
Essentially.
Uh-huh.
And pretty much what I'm thinking about is the two ladies that you had down sometimes back that grow asparagus, and they sell it for $6 per pound.
Yes, they do.
So if they've got I'm going to just use this as an example. If they got an asparagus plot that may be producing, 50 pounds of asparagus each season, and if they could get that, up 50%, that means that would be 75 pounds of asparagus they would be harvesting. And, at $6 a pound, that's roughly about $150 more that they would be making.
Sure.
And so that is great. And at this meeting, you'll be sharing all this information with all those in attendance.
And we'll also have share yield results of the rhubarb trial, which is right next to it.
Okay.
And this year, we had a lot of plants that died out for some reason last year. So last year was really not a good year for collecting, I guess, reliable data. But anyway, it actually what it showed the first year, it showed that the earlier planted rhubarb did the best the following year, and that was planting transplants out in mid-July. But this past year showed that the third planting date, which correlated with the first week of August, did the greatest, followed by the second week. Then we had the first week of July came in third, and then the fourth week in August did the worst. But this is why, you know, I want to continue this for a couple of years so that I can get in my mind what the best transplanting date for rhubarb is going to be.
Okay. Well, Carl, again, that will be Thursday, August 6th at 6 o'clock, correct?
There's no registration, no cost. Just come if you're interested, and we'll start right away. And we generally go until it gets dark, because we generally have a lot of material to cover, and there's also always a lot of questions too.
Okay, so be sure to check that out, and we'll try to remind you about that event coming up over the next week or so, and maybe you can make it your plans to attend. Carl, now, time flies, so to speak. Are you going to be doing your Master Gardener?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, Rob, because that's coming up too, and I'm going to be doing it a little bit differently this year. I'm actually going to have separate sessions, one for the Granville County people and one for the Person County people.
You are, okay.
Yeah,
Keep from having to travel so far.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the last 2 years I've had the same session, and the people would have. I would have it 1 week in Granville and the next week in Person. So I'll actually have 2 separate sessions now. And for the Person County people, it will actually start on the first Thursday in September, which I believe is is it the 3rd or the 4th? Whatever.
Let me see here. Let me get a calendar out right here. The first Thursday in September would be the 3rd.
The 3rd, right. So for Person County residents, we'll meet at the Person County Extension Office on Thursday, September the 3rd at 9 o'clock in the morning. The sessions will run from 9 until 12, and we'll meet every week thereafter until the week right before Thanksgiving. Excuse me. There's no charge for the program. Just come if you're interested. The intent is to teach people about elementary horticulture, looking at trees, turf, fruits, vegetables, insects, disease, weed control, soils, pesticides, and then in turn for that free training, it's expected that the Master Gardeners will volunteer their time in doing projects within the county, and this year we've had the project, the community garden project on Gregory Street, which has gone fine, has done real well, and then the beautification around the Person County Farmers Market as well. So,
and you know, it's many different ways that you can pay back. You could go to one of the local gardening centers with their permission, and maybe set up a little table and and maybe pass out some information.
That's right.
That is free and available through the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. Maybe answer questions.
Sure.
You know, who knows? You could maybe have some of the soil sample forms, you know, we can kind of go over to show people how to fill them out and things like that. So
that's right.
For more information on maybe registering for the free Master Gardener course, you can call the Person County Cooperative Extension Service office, 336-599-1195. The Granville County office, that number 919-603-1530.
1350.
Okay, I can't get the number right today. It's 919-603-1530. 1350.
Right.
Don't know why I'm having trouble with that
Well,
phone number
it
today.
happens
But
to-
anyway, yes, that would be something that you would enjoy. And not only, would you enjoy doing the Master Gardener's course yourself, people that around you would enjoy you learning this knowledge. So whenever they may come upon a problem, you may be able to help them out.
That's right, and the class size will be limited to about 25 people. So call early so you can, put your name on the list.
All right. We're going to get a word on in just a minute for one of our fine supporting sponsors. We'll take a trip out to T.G. Brooks Company, been in business since 1936. And Carl, one interesting thing, I know when we was out at T.G. Brooks Company a month or so ago doing the program from out there, they had a carpenter bee trap.
Oh, yeah.
And it was pretty interesting on Jeopardy within the last few weeks. They had the official name of that bee, but the question was, what is, the common name of this bee? And it was the carpenter bee. So I thought about the carpenter bee trap available at T.G. Brooks Company, and also I've thought about the times that we have talked about carpenter bees. But right now, we'll just take a trip out to T.G. Brooks Company and stop in, and we'll be back right after this message from T.G. Brooks Company.
This month of July, two things are important to a lot of us here in Person County. Number one is getting those delicious vegetables and pickles put up for the winter, whether you grew them or bought them at one of the two farmers markets. T.G. Brooks Company has all your canning jars in half pints, quarts, half gallons, and they have the pressure cookers, bath canners, strainers, funnels, in fact, all of your canning supplies. They offer the stone jars for pickling, too. The second thing is keeping everything green, and T.G. Brooks Company can handle all kinds of watering needs. First of all, they have sprinklers, water hose, sprayers, and water hose parts. They have irrigating equipment. T.G. Brooks Company has your piping for irrigating. They have gas-powered pumps. Keep everything green and keep that vegetable harvest coming in strong. Also, it's time to beautify your property while you're out of doors. They offer so many kinds of mulch in bulk form or bagged. You can get your mulch by the large scoop. They have delivery service available too. Bring your truck, trailer, and they'll load it up for you. When it comes to yard tools to do the work, they have your hose, diggers, choppers, and yard tools, everything you need to beautify. By the way, T.G. Brooks reminds everyone that they have dog fences and dog food by the bag. Be sure to enjoy the day with your family by ending the day and a delicious hand-cut ribeye steak sold and cut to your width and cook it up on the grill. T.G. Brooks Company has served the farmer, homeowner, and landscaper in the area since 1936.
Here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program. My name is Rob Hall, Mr. Carl Cantalupi of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, our resident expert. This is a pre-recorded edition of the Gardener's Corner program. We should be live back in the studio next Friday. We're kind of going over some things that you may be seeing in the garden and things that you can do to prevent these things from happening. And also we talked about going ahead and getting soil samples done for those of you that have cool season grasses that would like to start, more or less fertilizing them middle part of September.
Actually, another thing people can be doing now as time marches on, we talked about lawns. If you want to start cool season vegetables like cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli from seed, now's the time to start the seed. And it's very easy to do. You can just put them in start them in a flat or individual peat moss pots, and then put those in a flat and start them outside. reminds me back to the, oh gosh, it's awful when you get old, how time flies. Let's see, 87, 97, 07, and 8. Wow, 38 years ago, 1977, when I worked for a vegetable grower in central Pennsylvania, and I started cauliflower. Well, cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower in peat pots, and then grew them in flats. And then, to make a long story short, now's the time to do it. Start those, and in about a month's time, they're ready then to transplant into the garden around early to mid-August. And you want to do it. It seems too early for those crops, but it really isn't, especially when you're looking at cauliflower, which takes a longer time to mature.
Right.
And you want to have these vegetables mature before it gets too cold. Of course, freezing temperatures aren't going to hurt them. In fact, they can take it down to 26 with no problems. But if we have a lot of cold days, you're not going to get much plant growth on those days. So, word to the wise: get your seeds now. Try to get early varieties of broccoli. 60 days would be good. Same with cabbage, 60-day variety, and try to get the shortest cauliflower variety you can, usually around 90 days. If you want to try Brussels sprouts, now's the time to plant those well, because some varieties can go well into 100 days from seed.
Now, how about collards?
Collards, I'd wait on the collards. Wait on the collards and the turnips. Late August, early September would be good time for those.
Now, that is planting from seed. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some useful information right
Yeah.
there. Yeah, Carl, it is amazing how time flies.
Mm-hmm.
And, how, just in the blink of an eye, it's a year later.
That's it.
And when we was talking a bit ago about the Asparagus Twilight Meeting,
Mm-hmm.
how many years ago was it that PBS came out and done a feature on that
That was
meeting?
in 2012.
2012.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
3 years ago.
Wow. That's interesting that, time flies the way that it does. Something else that we would like to let our listeners know, you can call the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service if you have a question about, maybe you're thinking about starting a compost pile.
Mm-hmm.
They have a publication on that.
Yes, we do.
Maybe you're wanting to know how to build your own greenhouse. They have a publication on that. Pretty much, if you have a question that's pertaining to the garden or the landscape or anything that's pretty much around that area, if you just call the Cooperative Extension Service agent and let them know what you are wanting and what you're trying to do, they can offer you a lot of friendly, free advice.
Mm-hmm.
And so don't be afraid to call. Again, Person County, you can call 336-599-1195. Granville County is 919-603-1350. And I got the number right that time, I think.
That's it.
And I know we have listeners in the Virginia area, in Castle County, Orange County, and Durham County, and other areas. But if you just talk to your local Cooperative Extension Service agent, they can give you all that information that you need to know as well.
Mm-hmm.
Carl, I know we started talking a couple of weeks ago about a good time to plant pumpkins from seed.
Now's the time to do that, right?
It's still a good time to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I would say get as soon as you can. The better it will be, so that it'll mature. Just before Halloween. We don't want to start pumpkin seeds too early, because then they'll mature early, and then as the vines break down due to fungus diseases, the fruits gets exposed to the sun, and we get sun scald, and then they don't have a good good shelf life.
Right. Okay.
But now's the time. If people did plant cantaloupes in the garden, they'll be maturing pretty soon. And of course, a lot of people are surprised to learn that we actually do not grow cantaloupes in the U.S.
You're kidding, right? So all that supposedly cantaloupe we've been eating has not been cantaloupe.
And no, that's right. They are musk melons.
Oh Lord! Hold the phones.
Yep. But over the
We've
years,
been living an illusion.
yeah, that's right. But you know, the term muskmelons and cantaloupes have been used interchangeably for years. But the true cantaloupe was grown in Italy in the papal village of Cantalupo, which is where my
the
name
cantaloupes are from.
That's right. But that's the true cantaloupe, not the muskmelon that we grow here. But anyway,
Well, and you know, that being said, as you've said many times, people around here refer to sweet potatoes as yams, and they are actually far from it.
But anyway, here's a slide of when we talk about muskmelons, we can talk about eastern melons and western melons. And this is a slide of a western muskmelon, and we see these a lot in the grocery store. And they have a netting they have a netted rind. And to contrast this with the eastern melons, they have sutures along with the nets. The sutures run from the stem end down to the base, and these are the ones that we actually grow locally here, called the eastern muskmelons. And when you grow muskmelons, the thing that makes it real easy to know when to harvest a muskmelon is to know when the vine slips away from the fruit. This is called the full slip stage of maturity. The full slip stage of maturity is when you can take your thumb and you can separate the stem from the fruit with very, very little thumb pressure. But if you have to pull and tug and yank at that vine to separate it from the fruit, you know that melon is not ready. And I actually was in a store yesterday, and I saw some muskmelons that had some of the ends of the stem still sticking into the fruit, and it was green too. And I know that those melons were not going to be ripe.
Well, now, Carl, if you pick one that is not ripe and it is still kind of green, it does not ripen up on its own, does it?
It might soften up a little bit, but it's not going to increase in sugar content.
Okay.
And that's another thing for gardeners to be concerned about is when these melons are ripening in the garden, don't overwater them. Because what happens then is that the melon takes up a lot of the water, and then it dilutes the sugar content, and then we get calls from people saying, "Oh well, my cucumbers crossed with my melons, and they got a bad taste." Yeah. So we get that every year. That can never happen because a cucumber and a cantaloupe have two different chromosome numbers, and they can't cross.
Well, I've heard of watermelon growers, you know, have almost a field ready for harvest and get a lot of rain, and it'll pretty much, in a sense, ruin the crop of watermelon.
Yeah, they can crack. The fruits can crack by the rapid water uptake. And speaking of watermelons, one of the ways, or a couple of the ways you can see if the watermelon is ripe is that there's a little appendage or a little curlicue that occurs off of the stem closest to the fruit. When that turns brown and dries up, that's one good indication of watermelon ripeness. Also, when the underside of the melon turns from a yellow to a creamy color, that's another indication. But as they say, if a groundhog has gotten into your watermelon patch and has got into a watermelon, you know that you should have picked it yesterday.
That's a good idea. I like that. We need to get a word on for one of our fine supporting sponsors here on the Gardener's Corner program. We'll get a word on for Our Pride Foods, the makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip. And we'll be back with more Gardener's Corner program right after this message.
Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip, is made in Roxborough. Whether you're having a family gathering or would just like a snack for yourself, be sure to keep plenty of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip on hand. Goodness grows in North Carolina. Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese, is available at T.G. Brooks Company, Hurdle Mills Market and Butcher Shop, North Main IGA, Twins Meat Market, Just Save, and Food Line stores. Also, if you're in Uptown Roxborough and get the hankering for some Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese, you can enjoy it at Cole's Pharmacy and Triss's Espresso. That's Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip. Try the jalapeno added for extra flavor. Goodness grows in North Carolina, and Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip, is located in Roxborough.
Here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program. In just a bit, we're going to get a word on for South Boston Memorials, one of our fine supporting sponsors here on this edition of the Gardener's Corner program. My name is Rob Hall. Mr. Carl Cantalupi of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service is our resident expert. Carl, if you would, let's go ahead and give those dates again for your Master Gardeners course, and then also the Asparagus Twilight meeting.
All right. The Master Gardener course will begin at the Extension office on Thursday, September the 3rd at 9 o'clock. So give us a call at the Extension office at 599-1195. And, yeah, that's right. And so we can put your name on the list. The Asparagus Field Day will be on Thursday, August the 6th at 6 p.m., 980 Flem Clayton Road here in Roxborough. And we will start then and talk about the asparagus varieties and also the rhubarb variety trial. One thing that is occurring in gardens right now, I saw this yesterday actually, this is Coanephora rot on summer squash. And you can see the a good part of the squash is invaded by the fungus. It has black spores borne on gray stalks, and the gray stalks kind of look like a man's beard. So if you have this on your squash, there's really nothing you can do about it. Just pick off the affected squash, and the problem will disappear, and the fruits forming later will be unaffected.
All right, some useful information right there. Carl, we need to get a word on for South Boston Memorials. We are glad to have them as a sponsor here on the program. Carl, a quick question before we get a word on for South Boston Memorials. This will be your third year of doing the Master Gardeners course?
That's correct, yeah.
And this was an idea that you came up with because of other states and things doing it, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I wish it was where I could kind of take it. I think it would be fun.
I think you'd enjoy it. Absolutely, yeah.
All right, let's take a trip over to South Boston and get a word on for South Boston Memorials.
South Boston Memorials, located 1439 Seymour Drive in South Boston, Virginia. They offer granite markers, monuments, and mausoleums. For more information, visit the website SoboMemorials.com or call 434-572-3859. South Boston Memorials have been in business and family owned since 1958. In-house laser etching is available at South Boston Memorials. They have over 300 granite memorials in stock. For all of your granite markers, monuments, and mausoleums, stop in and see them right there at South Boston Memorials, located 1439 Seymour Drive in South Boston, Virginia, or call them at 434-572-3859 and visit the website SoboMemorials.com. That's South Boston Memorials, located 1439 Seymour Drive in South Boston.
Here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program, and you know what, Carl? By the old clock on the wall, it looks like our time has just about expired here on this edition of the Gardener's Corner program. We do hope and plan to be back in the studio live next week, so thanks for tuning in, and anyway, we appreciate our fine supporting sponsors, South Boston Memorials, T.G. Brooks Company, and Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip. Again, thanks for tuning in, and want to wish you and yours a happy and safe weekend, and we'll see you next week on another edition of the Gardener's Corner program.